Today's a really, really special day. It's the date of the passing of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, of Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, my mentor and the spiritual leader of our generation 31 years ago. When the Rebbe passed away, it left a dearth, it left a massive cavity within the heart of the Jewish people. He was a leader that guided the Jewish people through the greatest crises of the past 70 years or so. The Rebbe led us through the Six-Day War, the Entebbe Raid, the Yom Kippur War, the Iraqi nuclear reactor, the Gulf War, when Jews were terrified and wanting to run away from the land of Israel. This was even just one area where the Rebbe was able to impact global Jewry, not to mention the countless inspirational messaging and leadership and guidance that the Rebbe gave to communities and individuals all over the world. And I report this message from a very painful place. Behind me is the port of Valletta in Malta. This port is the oldest, the deepest port in all of Europe. This port, located in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, just outside of the Ionian Sea, not far from Africa, in between Africa and Italy. This location was the site where pirates would bring slaves that they had captured through their travels, through their wars on the high seas, and they would bring them to this port right here behind me to sell them for ransom. Countless Jewish people, men, women, and children, were brought here 1,000 years ago and more to be sold as slaves, captured, defenseless, and paid to the highest bidder. It's a very difficult thought to think about the kind of trauma, the kind of suffering, how families were broken up, brutalized, violated, and hopefully ended up in Jewish homes where they were able to somehow rebuild their broken families. For me to stand here today is essentially an act of defiance. Whereas our ancestors were here as victims, we today are here as victors, as tourists. There's a vibrant Chabad here in Malta, which we visited today, led by Rabbi Chaim and Mushki Segal, that has now purchased a 5-story building that they are converting into an unbelievable Chabad house. They're building a restaurant, dairy and meat, a shul, a visitor center. There's going to be classrooms and youth programming and activities. There's going to be a men's mikveh and a women's mikveh. It's sensational to see the transformation of Jewish life here in Malta. Malta, remember, was under Spanish rule under King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella in 1492, so that when the Edict of Expulsion happened in 1492, when the Jews were expelled from Spain, they were expelled from here too. And it's painful to think that Jewish life came to a screeching halt in 1492 until it was resurrected by the Chabad. Not so long ago, they've been here for about 14 years. There is a Jewish cemetery from the 19th century. In fact, we visited today the catacombs of Jewish people in a city called Rabat in Malta, where you see ancient etchings of the menorah over the catacombs. 2,000 years ago, this is the 1st century. So here we stand in a place where Jews were victims, and today we're the victors, because we're experiencing a transformation of Jews who are defenseless to Jews who are strong. Think about it this way. For thousands of years, the Jews were defenseless, and today we're fighting back. Today we're fighting our enemies, and we're not even asking permission from the rest of the nations of the world. Some of them are horrified. How dare the Jews strike back? How dare the Jews defend themselves? How dare the Jews play offense when Jews are supposed to play defense? But this is the revolution which we're experiencing all over the Jewish world, where Jews are no longer victims. Jews are taking their destiny into their own hands. You know, it's interesting walking through the streets of Europe, and we walked through various capitals of Europe in the past few days. It's very interesting. It's kind of painful to see the graffiti on the walls in Athens and Rome and in other places. Not very pleasant to see the anti-Semitism, the anti-Zionism, the blatant anti-Jewish hatred. It's racism, shameless racism in the name of progressive liberal values. But something which was very, very interesting that we noticed is that whenever we walked by potential anti-Semites with head up high and without fear, they didn't even react. It's only when we're afraid that they sense our fear. I hate to use the example, but like dogs. Dogs know when you're afraid and they come in to attack. But dogs can sense when there's no fear, when they understand who's boss. That's when they don't get involved. It's interesting, there's a beautiful story about the Rebbe. Again, it was your side it is today. When the Rebbe was trying to escape from Europe for the Holocaust, he was in Nice in southern France when several Nazis were walking up the street, and the Rebbe and his wife were there, and the other Jews ran away, but the Rebbe insisted on walking down the middle of the street. And as it happened, the Nazis didn't even say anything or do anything to the Rebbe and his wife, the Rebbetzin, because the Rebbe's attitude was one of fearlessness, was one of strength, not of fear and not of defense. Because this is the kind of leadership that the Rebbe inspired us to do. The Rebbe turned Judaism outwards, whereas Judaism prior to the Rebbe's leadership was based in the shtetl, was based in the Alta Heim back in Europe, where Jews minded their own business and had very little or nothing to do with the Gentiles around them. The Rebbe inspired us to open Chabad houses all over the world. We were in Mykonos, Greece, where we met the Chabad rabbi and Rebbetzin who opened up just a month ago. Chabad in Athens is thriving. Chabad in Rome there's more Chabads than you can count. Chabad in Malta, there's Chabad all over the world, because the Rebbe inspired us not to be intimidated, not to play defense. The Rebbe inspired us to play offense, to go out and make a difference, not to wait for them to come over to us, but for us to go out to them and to inspire the nations of the world. You know, Isaiah tells us that the mission statement of Judaism is to be a light unto the nations, or lagoyim. And Jonathan Sacks, former chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, passed away during COVID. Olav Hashalom, his soul be elevated in Gan Eden. Jonathan Sacks explained that for 2,000 years we could not be a light unto the nations for pain of death. If a Jew was to inspire a non-Jew to convert to Judaism, that was considered treasonous. It was treason against the church. It was treason against the state. Whenever somebody wanted to convert to Judaism, we try to distance ourselves from them over the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages, because Jews could get killed for that kind of stuff. We couldn't be a light unto the nations because we weren't allowed to have anything to do with the nations. And anytime we did get involved with the nations, it was normally in the form of a pogrom or some sort of massacre or attack or anti-Semitic riot that we wanted to have nothing to do with. But then, coming to the shores of the great United States of America, we were given the freedoms. Maybe it started with Napoleon. We were given the freedoms to be able to live as free citizens, to live like any other nations of the world. But the problem is that we were seduced by that kind of freedom. It was too overwhelming for us, and we were embarrassed about our Judaism. So here we were in liberated France or in the United States of America, and we felt that we needed to be like everybody else. What were our grandparents like when they came to Ellis Island? When they threw the tefillin overboard, when they felt that they couldn't keep Shabbos anymore because it was too difficult to keep a job. We were told straight up, if you don't come to work on Saturday, then don't bother coming back to work on Sunday. It was too hard. It was too difficult to maintain our values and still live in a secular world. Again, we weren't able to be a light unto the nations. Previously, we weren't allowed to have anything to do with the nations, but now that we were allowed to have something to do with the nations, we weren't able to be the light because we couldn't maintain our light. It was the Rebbe who inspired us to be able to straddle both lanes, to be able to say that I am a light, I'm proud of my Jewish identity, I'm not apologetic about it, I'm strong, I'm fearless, I'm unafraid, I'm playing offense, not defense, but at the same time, I'm fully integrated into the nations of the world. We're not only in the shtetl, we're in the boardroom, we're in Wall Street, we're in Main Street, we're leaders of industry, we're leaders of political government. Without being afraid, without being intimidated, we're strong in our Jewish identity, wearing our yarmulke, wearing our tzitzis, and not afraid of what other people are thinking about us. For the very first time in Jewish history, it's the Rebbe who inspired a generation of Jewish leaders to be able to know that the future is going to be as glorious as we're willing to make it. To know that we can and we must impact the world around us with Jewish values, with strength, with pride, without apology, but again, without condescension, to do so with kindness, with compassion, with inspiration. We can illuminate the world around us. We can indeed be a light unto the nations. And it's when we internalize this message that the third day of Tammuz, today's date, becomes so powerful, so meaningful, so personal, and so relevant. Right here in this port, it represents this transformation, coming from Jews of captivity to Jews of freedom, to Jews who are being sold as slaves, to Jews who are able to open a Chabad here in Malta just 14 years ago, and to be able to say we've got a 5-story building, it's across from the police station, about 20 minutes from the port, and we're able to be a light unto the nations. It's the Rebbe who inspired us to know that wherever we are, you don't need to be a Chabad rabbi or Rebbetzin to be a disciple of the Rebbe. Wherever we are and whoever we encounter, whether it's others or ourselves, we're able to inspire them by shining our light. Think about it this way. The world has never seen your light because God felt that you needed to be born. Without you, the world was incomplete. You have a unique light to shine upon this world that nobody else is able to. When you shine your beauty, your talents, your strengths, powered with the pride of Yiddishkeit, we are truly being a light unto the nations. So let's make this our commitment today on the third day of Tammuz, on the 31st anniversary of the Rebbe's passing, to be able to say, let's change gears. Let's move from defense to offense. Let's turn Judaism outward. Let's not be afraid. Let's be strong. Let's lead with pride. Let's make an impact. Let's extend the Rebbe's legacy to every place and to every person, to every mind and to every heart. We can shine up this world like it's never shone before. We can make the Rebbe's legacy live on 31 years later. Together, we can bring this world to its purpose. We can bring the world to a state of divine consciousness, higher consciousness, and divine awareness. It all starts right here in our own minds and hearts, making the decision to make that move. May we do it this year. Amen.